Hey everyone, good to see you, or as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, why hello there! As played by Ewan McGregor in Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, also starring Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin Skywalker. Not relevant to any of this. Hey, it's good to see you. You might know me, my name is Jarrett. Here to distract you for a little bit under the COVID-19 quarantine, especially my friends here in California. So, this will be a little bit different. Some of you know me, I make a lot of political commentary. Not this time, though. It's a non-political video. Because for the last 3 days? Yeah, 3 days. Instead of thinking about politics and the current economic status of things, as well as the current state of humanity, let's not talk about that. Let's go to something else. Instead, I've been thinking about the song The Sound of Silence, originally performed by Simon and Garfunkel. I've been analyzing the lyrics as juxtaposed with the music behind it. So be prepared for the word juxtaposition. You will hear that a lot in this video. Fair warning, let's continue from here. But hey, take a listen if you want to be distracted for a little bit. If you want to learn something, want to learn about interpretation of a certain song, or an interpretation of multiple versions of the same song. So it's going to be a little bit interactive if you guys care for that. So the first part, I'm going to ask you to listen to the first song, which is going to be the original version by Simon and Garfunkel, The Sounds of Silence, plural. I'm going to be going in 4 parts. So The Sounds of Silence, the version as performed by Disturbed, their album version from 2015, their album Immortalized. The third version, Disturbed's Live in Houston, featuring Miles Kennedy. And then the fourth version, which is going to be Simon and Garfunkel performing live in Madison Square Garden. So, let's have fun from here. If you're not interested in doing that, fine. I'm not going to ask you to click on something or be interactive with the video. What I'm going to do right now is let you know I'm going to have all the songs in the description. If you don't have time to go through each song and pause, fine. I'm going to have each song in a playlist that will go back to this video at the end. So you can just listen to everything straight through. So totally fine either way. But in the meantime, I'm going to start with the original version as performed by Simon and Garfunkel. So in the meantime, I'm going to ask you, go to the description, open the song, play it, pause it from here. I'll see you in a few minutes. See you soon. And time skip. All right, cool. So going through it, just get used to it. It's fine. Might be cringe. I don't care. So going through the original album, you have 2 performers. You have Paul Simon, Art Garfunkel. So if you want some background context, this song was originally written by Paul Simon back in 1964, as far as I've seen. I haven't done too much research into the songs. I want to analyze the lyrics by themselves along with the music. Juxtaposing how it's meant to be conveyed. Each one of these versions of the song, including written by themselves, are interpreted a little bit differently. Here's my interpretation. I'll make this rant short, I promise. So I know some of you will probably listen to this and be like, oh, Mr. Finney, your interpretation is wrong. It's wrong? First off, telling me it's wrong, it's not a moral issue. It's not a moral issue at all. It's not right and wrong. It's good, better, and best. In my opinion, my interpretation of the song by each version is good. If it could be better, please let me know. I don't care. I want to find the best version of the song. But going from right and wrong, it sets a really negative precedent in invalidating what someone interprets the song to be, for lack of a better phrase. So, anyway, you have Paul Simon, Art Garfunkel. Paul Simon is the one who's playing the guitar, and he has the lower pitches in the song. Art Garfunkel, he sings the melody. Paul Simon sings the harmony. Now, for my music friends, you can correct me on this. I'm not a music major. I didn't get my degree in music. I only perform music. So some of you might be, well, I just want to let you know, actually, Paul Simon was the melody, and Art Garfunkel, he was actually the harmony. You just have no idea. You should have learned that. Yeah, okay, cool. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But as far as I know in this interpretation, Art Garfunkel was or is, in this case, the melody. He has the higher pitch, and his higher pitch shows him to be more embracive in the concept of darkness. So the beginning of the song is the "Hello, darkness, my old friend." So it shows Art Garfunkel to be more embracive of the concept of darkness. Now, in terms of darkness in the lyrics, you can think of this in kind of a biblical sense. Darkness being a negative connotation for how it's to be interpreted. Darkness you can associate with anger, sadness, depression, melancholy, stuff like that. But the part that is more abrasive is Paul Simon's part. He is a lot more melancholic and abrasive, a lot more monotone. So, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." That's not the right notes, but bear with me here. Left its seeds while I was sleeping. Left its seeds while I was sleeping. That's what I mean. Paul Simon is a lot more of the monotone parts. So you can see two different points of view expressing the same concept behind the song. So you have the "Hello, darkness, my old friend." Darkness being what I told you before. I've come to talk with you again. I've come to talk with you again being I have had these emotions before. I am familiar with you. And so, here we go again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. So, you can associate this with a traumatic event or a list of traumatic events currently happening. So, I'm going to associate it with myself right now. So a vision softly creeping is the death of my dad. And left its seeds while I was sleeping. So you can interpret that as a dream and a negative connotation actually being put into a dream-like state. It's surrealism. It's a lot of surrealism that you can associate behind it. And the vision that was planted in my brain. Sorry about the singing. You don't need to listen to it. That was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. So you have the lyrics, the sound of silence. Silence is a constant word that's going to be used multiple times. And silence by itself is in a negative connotation because the way it's used, the sound of silence, it's meant to be ironic. It's meant to say that you have a voice, but your voice isn't being heard. And I think Simon and Garfunkel, especially in the original album, exemplify this very well. So they're really good at putting in the imagery of someone actually falling asleep and having negative connotations for what trauma they've experienced at the time. So then you get to the second verse in this song. So in the video, in the 36-second mark, this is where the accompaniment comes in. So you have drums, bass, all that stuff. Also, keep in mind where the transition point of the song is. A lot of people think, oh, okay, a lot more instruments came in. This must be the transition point, the overt transition point. No, and you'll learn this in later versions of the song. This is just where everything else comes in. Personally, I'm not too big of a fan of where they chose the accompaniment. At the same time, I don't criticize Paul Simon that much. That guy is a genius. So he had intentions at the time, back in the 1960s. So, in Restless Dreams, I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. Neath the halo of a street lamp, excuse me. So you can actually think of a street lamp, a street light, illuminating its light, and it's actually that circle over there on the street to illuminate what's present there. in the sense, it looks like a halo. So it's using religious imagery at the same time. But he also says, I turn my collar to the cold and damp. Now this is an important lyric too. Well, it's all important in the context. But with this lyric, the cold and damp. Now you can think of like wearing a collar of a suit or collar of a shirt like I am right now with my Batman shirt, my Blackest Night Batman shirt. So think of when you have been in a very poor emotional state? How does it feel? Are you optimistic? Do you feel light on the shoulders? I don't imagine so. I can imagine you feel really heavy. So imagine wearing all your clothing, going into a body of water. Excuse me, that was gross. Going into a body of water, or a pool. Let's go with a pool. And you walk out of the pool. Do you feel lighter? No, no, no. You feel heavy at the shoulders. Because you have a bunch of water soaking into your clothes. So the weight, that emotional weight, puts you down. That's what I think Simon and Garfunkel were going for, is saying, hey, I feel this negative emotion. I'm more cold. I'm more toward this body of water of negative emotion. When I go out of it, I feel cold. I feel damp. I feel heavy. That's what I think he's going for, or they're going for. And then when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light. So you'll hear the words neon and light used twice in this song. I'm going to go into that a little bit later. Don't need to worry about it right now. But then you hit 1 minute and 11 seconds in this song. And this is where the major transition is. I know you think it's at the second verse. It's at the third verse, actually. This is where the major transition is with, and in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. The reason for this, so look at the word naked. Most people, if you look at the lyrics, you say, oh, what's the major theme or what's the major word that you can distinguish out of everything else in this verse? Probably people would use the word light, because light is juxtaposed with darkness in the beginning of the song. I know words. Light is juxtaposed with darkness at the song. But the word that stands out to exemplify that light is the word naked. It's important. That's an important word. Keep that in mind, because that's when you see something at its purity, or in the sense it's most exposed. That moment where you're saying like, oh, or oh, or oh. You see it for its pure state, its most exposed state. And it's a subtle transition. You can hear the subtlety in this particular version of the song. The next 3 songs, it's pretty explicit. You'll be able to see it no problem. But in this version, pretty subtle. It says, in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. So I want you to think about something. You, the viewer, I want you to think about something. Think about a dark time you had. I don't want to know the darkest time. Think about a dark time you had. And you're in a room full of people in your own mind, stuck in your own mind, thinking that no one understands what you're saying. You look down, and suddenly you look up, you see everyone else in the room. And you say to yourself, I'm not the only one going through pain. Everyone else here is going through pain too. Now that's important. That's where I think the transition of the song is very important, because it's someone, and in these terms you have Paul Simon, Art Garfunkel, 2 different versions of the same conclusion are coming to a realization. It's not prophetic. It's not a prophetic realization. It's not a revelation or anything, but it's them saying like, I'm not the only one in this. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more I don't understand. I say people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening. That's an important one too. Being able to hear something but not actually process what's going on. People writing songs that voices never share, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Now verse 4 is what gets really cool. It becomes really cool in this song. It becomes quotations. He says, "Fools, said I, you do not know, silence like a cancer grows." Associating silence, the concept of silence, with cancer. Now, that's interesting too, because you can interpret silence as being serene, maybe. But in this case, it's suppression. Silence represents suppression, not being heard, having a voice, and that voice not actually being heard or interpreted for what it is. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. Now, keep in mind, these are both voices of Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel speaking at the same time. It's really cool because it's two different versions of the same concept coming to the same conclusion. Why do I think this is cool too? It's because it's not just their voices. It's just the voices represented in the song. So it's the individuals representing the whole and saying, no, people don't understand me. And these two people saying, oh, maybe they do. Yeah, maybe they do. Oh, let me reach out to you. Let me teach you. We're in this together. I actually really love that part of the song. But you get later in the song at about the 2-minute 13-second part, and echoed in the wells of silence, and there's an intentional decrescendo. Echoed in the wells of silence. I just like that. I don't have an interpretation for you. I just like it. You go to verse 5, and it's the people bowed and prayed by the neon god they made. So I talked about the word neon earlier. Now, in this sense, instead of the neon light, it's a neon god. So if you think biblically, and an angel coming from heaven, a light shines around them. But then you have the word neon. What does neon mean? Well, for its time, what was big? Television. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon gods they made. So it was meant to represent television. But is this prevalent currently? Yeah, absolutely. Computers, cell phones, still television. It's people being in the same place and worshiping this thing that's in front of them. In this case, technology. Now, when it comes to the theme of this song, I didn't go over this earlier and I apologize, but the theme of these songs, or of each version of the song, is lack of communication from man with man. So it's being in the same room, feeling the same emotion as that person next to you, and not being able to represent it because you have a distraction in front of you. In this case, technology. Like it's still very prevalent to today. Then you have the end of the song, the sign flashed out its warning in the words that it was forming, and the sign said, the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence. That's the end of the song. So, the subway walls, subways are a public place where people could go from one place to another, or tenement. Tenement representing owner having a piece of land. So it's representing the regular person. So you can go, this song you can interpret it as from the individual representing the whole and how you're able to communicate with one another. So it's actually a place of empathy. And I find that very fascinating with this song. Because the prophets, so you have light and darkness, but the prophets are the everyday people. So at the end of this song, and what Paul Simon in particular is trying to represent is, hey man, we're not listened to. The regular people are what matter. But people are treating us like we do not matter. We are silenced. We whispered in the sound of silence. Very fascinating. I really like it. I'm very curious to know other people's interpretations, especially as we go further into this video. I focused for about 15 minutes just on this part. Let's move on. I want to move on to the second song, the album from Disturbed, from Immortalized. Their version, the album version of The Sound of Silence. So in the meantime, go to the description, go to the second song, and go to Immortalized. And in the meantime, I'll see you in a few minutes. Pause right here. And bam! Ow! That hurt my hands. So, when it comes to Disturbed, the reason I want to analyze this version is, well, one, I'm very biased. If there's anyone who doesn't know me, Disturbed is, they're my favorite, they are my favorite musical artists. I've loved Disturbed since I was 15, probably 16 years old. I'm 29 now, so here we are. I love Disturbed. I love Disturbed so much. I have so much respect for David Draymond. He has been my favorite singer since back in the day, and I have a lot of respect for them. I know a lot of people are very mixed about the band Disturbed, but I have my opinions on them, and I'm going to stick with them. That all said, with this version of the song, if you did take a listen, I'm not a fan. I don't like this version of the song. So we're going to start from the very beginning. You have a piano playing instead of guitar, which is not a big deal. Like, it's not at all a big deal. The piano is played by Dan Donegan. He's the pianist. He's usually a guitarist in Disturbed. So if anyone knows Disturbed, they've become famous. They're the guys who you don't know. They are the Down with the Singers. Like those guys. They became famous through other songs. So they did a cover of Shout. They also did Land of Confusion by Genesis. They would eventually do Sound of Silence from Simon and Garfunkel. So from the interview that I saw with David Draymond talking about the song, a lot of their songs, if you listen to their covers, they're a lot more upbeat. Still angry, but there was an emphasis by Dan Donegan. He wanted it to be ambient, etheric, and orchestral. I don't necessarily agree with the interpretation, but that's fine. I'm going to try to put my opinion aside and understand where they go from here. So, as with Simon and Garfunkel at the very beginning, you have two different parts representing two different voices for the same concept. Well, in this one, the very beginning, you have the piano playing and you have David Draymond singing by himself. And in my opinion, I think him singing takes away from the overall concept of relatability. And especially because when you get to the second verse at about 1 minute 5 seconds, this is where all the other instrumentals come in. So you have the timpani, you have other guitars, other instruments, and honestly, I think it takes away from the rest of the song. Granted, they chose that exact point because it replicates what Simon and Garfunkel did in their original album. So the first half of the song up until verse 3, I actually really enjoy it. It's up until verse 3 at 1 minute 47 seconds where, remember when I mentioned the transitions? This transition is very, very, very overt. Like, too overt. I don't like it. Because all of a sudden there's a big crescendo. And this is where it becomes very preachy. And in the naked light I saw... Sorry for the cringe, anyone. And it's David Draymond. If anyone knows Disturbed live in concert, I haven't seen them yet. I really want to, but I know Disturbed is very, very preachy with their concepts and their songs. And David Draymond, as much as he doesn't like religion, he is very preachy on stage. And not like the Simon and Garfunkel part where that transition is very natural. It's very subtle. It's like someone being like, oh, something clicked in my head. This one is just like, I never realized this. Oh my God. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people. Maybe more. It's like, yeah, it's kind of cringy, right? Like, the way I interpret it, yeah, it's meant to be cringy. That's the whole point. Thank you for understanding. Yeah, and the transition is very, very overt when it doesn't need to be. That's why I find Simon and Garfunkel's transition very natural. And I just wish Disturbed didn't hone so much on the preaching aspect as if it's anger behind a message. So if you want to interpret the times, at least, so you have Simon and Garfunkel. You have Simon and Garfunkel giving a message. And then years later, oh, it's fucking... whatever that is. You have Simon and Garfunkel saying, like, here's the message, and then Disturbed says, I'm angry that you didn't understand the message. Here is the message, you stupid person. So it becomes very preachy, especially when you get to the fourth verse, the fool says you do not know, silence like a cancer grows. So it's still very preachy. Like, I have a lot of problems with this interpretation. I know what it's going for. I don't like it up until it says, take my arms. I'm not going to try to sing that. Take my arms that I might reach you. It's at 2 minutes, 47 seconds. It's the most sincere part of this song. It's David Draymond saying, hey, we're in this together. Take my arms. We're in this together. I understand you. And it's trying to be relatable. And it uses a lot of fortissimo, which is really ironic. Especially when it says, but my words like silent raindrops fell. That's the fortissimo part. It's kind of ironic because it's a sound of desperation. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. A lot of it, I'm just going to get down to it. The song sounds really preachy. I love Disturbed, but this is not my favorite song of theirs. They have way better songs like 10,000 Fists. In the same album where they became famous for the sound of silence, Save Our Last Goodbye, Immortalized, especially Save Our Last Goodbye, though. That is so good. It is so good. It is so good. I don't think this is their best song. I don't think this should have made them more famous. I don't think they meant to be more famous, especially if you watch the video. The video is interpreted very literal. So, sorry, let me making myself laugh. So there's the part where it's like people talking without speaking, and it shows people on each side of the screen just literally talking, and no one's listening to them. There's no sound, and then people hearing without listening, and people writing songs that voices never share, and it's people literally writing in music. So I get what the director is going for. Again, you don't need to watch this video. It's not worth it, in my opinion. I get what the director was going for. He was interpreting the lyrics literally, and he was using it metaphorically. So in the video, you can see one side of the sea, there's people holding a bunch of instruments. So you have guitar, drummer, a harp, French horn, and then on the other side are people holding sheet music in their hands. And at the end of that song, where it's that you see a ship holding all the instruments and the people going across to accompany the people with the sheet music, as though to give them a voice, to relinquish them from the sound of silence. I get what they were going for. Personally, it's cringy. If you like it, that's good. 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 That's good. If you like it, that's fine. But it's not my favorite song. So, let's go on to part 3. So in the meantime, I want you to look for Disturbed. Just go in the description, look for Disturbed live in Houston, featuring Miles Kennedy, who is an amazing singer. So in the meantime, enjoy the song. Pause here. I'll see you in a few minutes. And a flabamo, says many YouTubers who use their hands to make transitions. I'm in the same room and I spilled water. I'm a good man. So, as opposed to the album version from Disturbed, which I don't like as much, the live version is phenomenal. And I appreciate it because it goes back to what Simon and Garfunkel were going for. You have 2 different voices. So you have David Draymond playing, he's basically Art Garfunkel, and Miles Kennedy is the Paul Simon in the song. Granted, if you listen to it, the lyrics and the notation, they contradict themselves constantly. So, and sometimes you have Miles Kennedy being more consistent and monotone, for lack of a better phrase, with the rest excuse me, similar to Paul Simon, but it's an octave higher. So I like it a lot, especially because it starts very strong. The "Hello, darkness, my old friend," and then you have Miles Kennedy. The "Hello, darkness." Don, just ignore me. I don't have a piano next to me, so it's not gonna work, and it's fine. I'm gonna stop right here. But the parts change sometimes, and I like it. 1 minute 36 seconds where you have the guitar entrance. Excuse me for a moment. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. I turn my collar to the cold and damp. So I like the way that Miles Kennedy at that point, I can't do it right now. Again, I'll shut up. How he starts at that same note that he's been doing, and then he goes an octave higher and goes back down to that same note when he ends with damp. So you have that other transition period. It's the same transition period I've been telling everyone else about at 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Right before the naked light I saw. And what really bothers me, though, is right before that, they don't end the phrase at the same time. So you have the sound of silence, within the sound of silence. And then Miles Kennedy's like, about 2 seconds later. It doesn't work. It doesn't end well. It doesn't convey the same message that they're trying to go for at the same time. You also have Miles Kennedy be like, the sound of silence, and he's doing this the entire time like he's a quarterback trying to practice his throw. He just can never make it. Then it goes back down to verse 3, and you have Miles Kennedy doing the same consistent notation. People talking without speaking. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. And people writing songs, voices never share, blah, 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 blah. And then you go later to verse 4, where it's the quotations again. Fool, said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might reach you. And then they go really heavy onto the take my arms that I might reach you. So this is the most sincere part of the song, in my opinion. They're really conveying emotion. This is at 3 minutes, 17 seconds. So take my, just don't listen to me. Take my arms so that I might reach you. But my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of silence. I'm trying here, man. Like, doesn't help that I don't have the music in front of me. Anyway, my favorite part of this version of the song is at 3 minutes and 14 seconds. So it says, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. The reason I like this is listen to each part. So Miles Kennedy, you have David Draymond. He is the melody. This one I know for sure. He's the melody. You Miles Kennedy, whose notation's higher, and then suddenly there's a point where the notation intertwines. Yeah. So, and the people bowed and you have Miles Kennedy go, to the neon god they made. And it's that realization right there. So if you want to think about it the way I'm thinking about it, where two different voices are expressing the same thing, to the neon god they made. It's two people come to the conclusion like, wow, people really worship technology and how much it really disaffects us. Like, that is my favorite part of that song. To the neon god they made. It'll go on from there. So the pinches are intertwining, blah, blah, blah. And they do it again. So the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls, and you hear Miles Kennedy going lower than David Draymond. That descent in pitch again, for the sake of saying, I understand. Again, The lyrics are intertwining. The notation is intertwining. So they're understanding the same message, and that nothing has come about it. So that's what's important about this version of the song, is that dissonance and descent in pitch. So that way you understand they're coming to the same conclusion. They're saying, screw this system. But that isn't exemplified nearly as well as part 4, which you should listen to right now. Part 4, it's going to be Simon and Garfunkel live in Madison Square Garden. Go to the description right now, open up the tab, listen to it, pause this video, and in the meantime, I'll see you in a few minutes. Oh, a pow, transition with my hand. So, this is my favorite version of this song. So you have an extended solo at the beginning with Paul Simon playing the guitar, and it goes on for about a minute or so. And you see Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel. I love this. I don't know why. Like, watching the video, I said don't watch the video, but at this point, watch it. You see Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel. They make eye contact, looking at each other, saying, "You ready, man? You bet." Hello, darkness, my old friend. With Art Garfunkel sounds amazing in this version of the song. I love it so much. And they maintain the two-voice narrative. Like the two voices, if you couldn't tell, this is really important to me personally. Compared to that Disturbed version, the album version, I don't like the interpretation, but this one, or all the other three, the two voices, I love it so much because it just exemplifies so many different points of views. And you have the song going on. Now notice, but before verse 2, with all the other songs, before verse 2, you'll have an accompaniment either with guitar or drums or timpani coming in. In this song, they keep the guitar solo from Paul Simon. They keep with the guitar solo with Paul Simon up until verse 3, up until the naked light I saw, and in the naked light I saw. I love this. I love it so much because it really gives an eerie sense of isolation and what someone is really going through in terms of what they're experiencing. And this is the true transition, the most overt transition of the song. Well, not most overt, I'm sorry, but the most naturally overt version of the song. I love it so much. And in the naked light I saw, and all the instruments come in, and there's a big crescendo. And that verse, it echoes. Like it resonates. It works naturally. And then you go later down the song, and after people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, and this is my favorite part of this verse, and people writing songs. Sorry. People writing songs and voices never shared. And then you have Paul Simon. So you hear major tones mixed with minor tones. People writing songs and voices never shared. And then people writing songs. Fuck. Sorry. I apologize. Wow. I am like a high school student trying to get a pitch in my head. I need a piano. I'm not editing this video. Just bear with me right now. I'm sorry. Cringe if you like. I don't care. We're going from here. This is how we go. This is how we shoot this stuff. Writing songs out. Never shared. People writing songs and voices never shared. There we go. God, I feel so much better. I sang tenor, so sometimes baritone does not go well with me. I'm not going to apologize again. But I like that part, especially because two different tones work so well together to intertwine. And then Verse 4, fool said I, you do not know. See, you have the sound of resolution. So, hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arm so that I might reach out to you. Now, there's a word that they incorporated in this live version that works really well. The word is out. I like it. I really like it. I think it was Paul Simon's idea, for sure. Because in the other versions, this is, take my arm so that I might reach out, so that I might reach you. So it's someone trying to make their voice resonate in order to exemplify, express a message that that person is trying to convey. Now, when you put in the word out, this is completely different. I like it so much. So that I might reach out to you is saying, I feel you, man. Like, come here. Let's figure this out together. The word out makes all the difference in this interpretation of the song. I love this so much. Paul Simon, I'm assuming it's Paul Simon. Paul Simon, you're a genius. Maybe you don't think you're a genius, but your brain does. So this version, 325. So that's the emphasis is at 325. But my words and the silent raindrops fell and echoed. Oh, yeah, 342. This is, of all four versions, my favorite part of this song. So it says, but my words like silent raindrops fell. And you hear Art Garfunkel, and echoed. And he really emphasizes the word echoed. And the reason he does that is to sort of an onomatopoeia. Correct me on that, but it's sort of to replicate what an echo is. An echo. And then you have Paul Simon playing the guitar by himself, singing, in the wells of silence. Now, understand that part. Please understand that part. He is not singing the music. I mean, he's literally singing the music. Like, he literally is doing that. But it's not a matter of singing for the sake of singing. He is conveying a feeling. He is feeling those words. He is saying those lines. In the wells of silence. Like, there's a big difference. I don't know if many of you understand this. So, one of the things that I've learned from one of my mentors / one of my good friends, Dan Durand, is that if you want to get into the philosophy of music, okay, what is music? There's a whole different story, interpretations, different philosophy, different interpretations on how to understand music. But when it comes to knowing music truly, music is feeling. You can sing a song. I can sing a song. I do karaoke. I enjoy karaoke. I don't have the chance to do it now, but I enjoy karaoke. I can sing the song. But am I feeling the song? Those are two different things. You can say the words. I can sing the words, and people will understand it a certain way. But I can say the words, and someone will be like, wow, that guy meant those words. So when someone says, say the words, let the music come with it. Well, that's a whole different story. And that's exactly what Paul Simon did. Like, this is my favorite part of all three of these songs. Number 2 being Miles Kennedy with the switching in pitch and all that stuff. Oh, man, I love that part of the song. So, I really like these songs, man. Like, I've thought a lot about them. I've been recording for 45 minutes, and some parts will be cringe. I'm sorry. I've been trying not to apologize, but I'm sorry. So they're really good at the end of the song. I think I went over this earlier. I forgot. Oh well, here we go. I don't care. So, how they relate the word prophets. So, the word prophets are associated with what's written on the subway walls and tenement halls. Now, this is interesting Because earlier in the song, we had the people bowing and praying to the neon god they made, being television or some form of technology that exemplifies not being able to communicate with your fellow man. But then you have the average person being called the prophets. Wow, wasn't this intentional by Paul Simon? My God, wasn't this intentional by Paul Simon? He knew what he was doing when he was 21. Because the prophets pertain as power with people, not actual profit. Ha ha. Because a lot of what this song exemplifies, especially for the time back in the 60s, were people not being heard, especially in the masses. Especially, I'm trying not to make this political, but in the masses, people aren't heard for what they want to have happen. And this is Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel saying, screw the system. Like, this system sucks. Is this what you really want? This is why the song currently resonates until now. This is why, God, man, belches. This is why the song was performed by Disturbed. Because it still holds up to this day. So, where Disturbed can be a little bit more upbeat into their songs, this is a good transition point to actually being able to be introduced to Disturbed's music. It's pretty cool, actually, to where the way that they interpret it, as much as I don't care for their album version, I love the Miles Kennedy version, as I've said multiple times before, it still holds up to this day. This is why it's still relevant. This is why I think it won an award. Like, they knew what they were doing. Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel knew what they were doing. The Madison Square Garden song is the best version of their song by far. By far. By far and a mile and away. So, in the meantime, I'm going to shut up from here. This has been about almost 50 minutes. Oh my God. It's been almost 50 minutes. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening. I hope you enjoyed the songs. I want you to think about them. Comment what you thought about them. Let me know if my interpretation could be better. I don't mind that. My degree is in English, not music. So interpretation comes naturally, but doesn't mean interpretation is correct. Could be better. Not wrong. It's better. Not right or wrong. It's good, better, or best. Remember that. Remember that in the future. It's not a contemporary thing anymore. Anyway, everyone, thank you for listening. I hope you had a good time. Hope you didn't cringe too much. If you did, it's going to come with an unedited video. So, have a good one, guys. Stay safe.